Eleanor ran a wrinkled finger across the faces in the photo album. Each image, a whisper of time gone by. Her son, Thomas, beamed a gap-toothed grin in one. A younger, vibrant Eleanor held him close. She traced the outline of his face, the memory of his childish laughter echoing through her mind.
The years had not been kind.
Loneliness had settled in after Thomas moved out, then the crushing grief after her husband's passing. Now her reflection showed a stranger, a frail woman with silver hair and eyes that held the weight of the world. She closed the album, a sigh escaping her lips.
What was left for me now?
Days bled into weeks, filled with endless cups of tea and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, then a sliver of hope. A news report flashed on the television talking about a groundbreaking medical trial, the Fountain Project, a chance to reverse aging, to reclaim youth, a chance to outrun time. The name itself sparked a flicker of something in Eleanor's tired heart. Fountain of Youth, a myth, a legend, now a possibility. Could she dare to hope? Could she recapture even a fragment of that lost vitality?
What did I have to lose?
The decision to call the number flashing on the screen was impulsive, almost desperate. But a voice deep within her whispered, urged her on. Her life was a slow, predictable march towards oblivion. This was a chance, however slim, to change everything.
This was my chance, my leap of faith.
The voice on the other end of the line was crisp, professional. They explained the risks, the unknowns, but Eleanor barely registered the words. All she heard was the promise, the tantalizing possibility of a second chance. Weeks later, she found herself at the clinic, a sterile and imposing building that hummed with the silent energy of groundbreaking science. Fear warred with anticipation in her chest, but as she signed the consent forms, a new resolve settled over her. The procedure itself was a blur. Days turned into nights, a kaleidoscope of tests, injections, and the constant beeping of machines. Then slowly the changes began. The wrinkles on her face seemed to fade, the ache in her joints lessened, and her reflection in the mirror no longer showed a stranger but a woman she vaguely remembered, younger, vibrant.
Mom?
When Thomas came to visit, his face etched with concern for his aging mother, he stopped short. His eyes widened, disbelief etched across his features. Standing before him wasn't the frail woman he had left behind, but a woman seemingly untouched by time, radiating an energy he hadn't seen in decades.
It's me, Thomas. It's really me.
Eleanor smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, a smile she hadn't felt in years. The shock in his eyes slowly gave way to a cautious wonder. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and touched her face. The warmth of his touch, the familiarity of it, brought tears to her eyes. It was a touch that had once been filled with childish affection, now laced with the disbelief of a man witnessing the impossible. The news of Eleanor's transformation spread like wildfire. Doctors were baffled, scientists intrigued, and the world watched in awe and apprehension. But in the quiet of their home, a different kind of transformation was taking place. Thomas, initially hesitant, found himself drawn to his mother's newfound youth. He saw in her the woman who used to bake cookies and read him bedtime stories, the woman whose laughter used to fill their home with warmth.
What if I too could turn back time?
The idea first came to him as a passing thought, a whisper in the back of his mind. Not to reclaim lost youth, but to recapture a time of pure, unadulterated joy. A time when his mother was his whole world, a source of comfort and unconditional love. The decision once made was swift and resolute. He sought out the scientists, convinced them to administer the serum, this time reversing the aging process to a point he vaguely remembered, a time of carefree laughter and boundless energy.
Oh my God, Thomas!
Eleanor watched in stunned silence as her son, her Thomas, who had grown into a man with worries and responsibilities, slowly transformed before her eyes. His features softened, his stature shrank, and the lines etched by time and worry on his face disappeared, replaced by the smooth skin of youth.
Look, Mommy, I'm your little boy again.
His words were filled with innocence and wonder, a voice from a time long past, now brought back to life. His eyes revealed he was far wiser than he appeared to be now. Life took on a surreal, almost whimsical quality.
I never imagined I'd be the one tucking you into bed again, Thomas.
Eleanor, once the one being cared for, found herself tending to her son, now a child with all the boundless energy and insatiable curiosity of youth. She prepared his meals, read him stories, and tucked him into bed at night, her heart filled with a mixture of amusement and a love she thought she had lost forever.
The roles have shifted, yet our bond has only deepened.
Thomas, freed from the burdens of adulthood, reveled in his mother's undivided attention. He followed her around the house, his laughter echoing through the halls, filling the silence that had become a constant companion.
Mom, can we play another game, maybe hide and seek?
Eleanor found a joy in motherhood she hadn't experienced the first time around. The worries of the future, the pressures of raising a child in a world that seemed to grow increasingly complex, were gone. All that remained was the pure, unadulterated love between a mother and her child.
Of course, sweetie. Let's enjoy every moment.
There were moments, of course, when the strangeness of their situation would hit them. Moments when Thomas would look at her with a flicker of concern in his eyes, a fleeting memory of a life lived and then erased.
Sometimes it felt like he put a burden on his mother to raise him again.
But these moments were fleeting, quickly replaced by the unbridled joy of their new reality. His mother knew him so well she put his worries to bed.
Don't worry, Thomas. We're making new memories now, and that's all that matters.
In their sunlit kitchen, Eleanor helps Thomas with a jigsaw puzzle. Laughter lines crinkle her eyes while Thomas beams with pure joy, completely absorbed in their shared activity. Unburdened, laughter, rediscovering joy, they built a life filled with the simple pleasures that had once brought them so much joy.
Days were spent in the park, being pushed on the swings, building sandcastles that crumbled under the weight his small hands.
Evenings were filled with board games and watching movies, Eleanor's voice lulling Thomas to sleep just as it had years ago when it was time for bed. There was an innocence to their laughter, a purity to their joy that was infectious.
Neighbors would stop and stare, their faces etched with a mixture of bewilderment and envy.
How could we explain the inexplicable? How could we convey the depth of love and happiness that filled our days?
For Eleanor, it was a chance to experience motherhood without the regrets and what-ifs that often plagued her thoughts. She cherished every moment, every giggle, every hug, knowing that time, once their enemy, was now their ally.
Thomas, too, seemed to blossom under his mother's care. Freed from the constraints of adulthood, his imagination soared. He built forts out of blankets, embarked on imaginary adventures, his laughter echoing through the house like a forgotten melody.
A longing heart, the search for completeness. Yet, as idyllic as their days were, a part of Eleanor longed for something more.
I watched Thomas play naked on hot summer days. Through the back glass doors there was now a kiddie pool he loved to splash around in. His laughter echoing through the house, and felt a pang of sadness. He deserved a father, a male role model to guide him as he grew, if he ever decided to grow up. He'd been looking at the younger children, toddlers and babies, if thinking about becoming even younger.
The thought of finding a partner grew more urgent in her mind, of sharing this newfound life with someone who could love and cherish Thomas as she did, began to take root in her mind.
It wouldn't be easy, I knew, to explain our situation, to find someone who could accept the unconventional nature of our family. But the desire for completeness, for a love that could encompass both my son and me, grew stronger with each passing day.
She yearned for a partner who could share in their laughter, who could help build sandcastles and tell bedtime stories, who could be a source of strength and support as they navigated this uncharted territory together.
The search, I knew, would be fraught with challenges. The world, I was beginning to realize, was not always kind to those who dared to defy convention. But the love I felt for my son, the joy I found in our unconventional life, gave me the strength to face whatever lay ahead.
Shadows of doubt, the price of eternal youth. Whispers followed them like shadows. People spoke in hushed tones, their eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion.
The media couldn't get enough of our story. The Benjamin Button case, as it was dubbed, a constant source of fascination and scrutiny.
Eleanor could feel the weight of their gaze, the judgment in their whispers. Was it envy, disapproval, or perhaps a fear of the unknown, a fear of what their story represented, a disruption of the natural order, a defiance of time itself?
Doubts too began to creep into my mind. Was this sustainable? Could we live in this bubble of reverse time forever? What about Thomas's future? Could he ever truly experience the world, the complexities of life, in this state of perpetual childhood?
The questions swirled in her mind, casting a shadow over their idyllic existence. The joy they shared, the laughter that filled their days, couldn't completely drown out the nagging sense of unease.
We had been given a gift, a second chance, but at what cost? The price of eternal youth, I was beginning to realize, was not measured in years, but in the weight of choices made, in the shadows of doubt that lingered even in the brightest of days.
An uncertain future, hope and apprehension, the future stretched before them, an uncharted sea of possibilities and uncertainties.
I held a now toddler Thomas close, thankfully still potty-trained, his small hand trusting in mine. Soon, he would sleep in a crib and need diaper changes. The warmth of his touch anchored me, reminding me of the love that fueled our unconventional journey.
She would find a way, she vowed silently, a way to protect him, to guide him, to ensure his happiness, even in a world that struggled to understand their reality.
The search for a partner, for a man who could be a father figure to Thomas, became more than just a desire. It was a necessity. Our story was far from over, I knew. Challenges awaited us, obstacles to overcome. But in the depths of my heart, a flicker of hope remained.
They had defied the odds once before, they could do it again. As she looked down at Thomas, his face aglow with laughter, she made a silent promise.
I would fight for our happiness, for our right to exist in a world that often struggled to accept anything outside the norm. Our love, our bond, was our strength, our shield against the uncertainties that lay ahead.
The path ahead might be uncertain, but she would face it with courage, with love, with the unwavering belief that even in a world obsessed with time, some things were timeless.